Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or know your nation, know yourself. Uh, gosh, where to begin? Where to begin? I hope you like the new microphone. Do let me know how the sound is. So you should be able to be picking up a bit more of my voice. I wanted it to be maybe a little bit lower, but I might have to kind of adjust and play with the stand. I wanted it maybe more around about here. It can actually go a bit higher. Maybe I could actually have it above, but then I'd have a pole sticking out. So I might get one of those arm mics. Let me just make sure that this is here so you can hear me properly. And do let me know what you think of the sound, etc. All right. So, oh gosh, where to begin? Where to begin, folks? A lot to discuss. As you know, what's today going to be about? I'm going to be talking more about Jupiter exalted and what it means. And remember, Jupiter becomes exalted in the sign of sidereal Cancer. Yeah, that is where Jupiter is considered at its strongest. And what does this mean? And one of the things that we need to talk about is SNAP. Yeah, now SNAP is the food, what is it? Supplemental nutrition program, so something like that. I'll share my screen with you, and then of course we can kind of look into it. But the reason why is this important? You will remember I said the other day, didn't I? I said, look, the wake up call, yeah, is coming. Is here, yeah. The wake up call is coming. And the reason why SNAP is very important now, I was actually looking at the statistics of SNAP. And while it is true that there are quite a few red states that do need the SNAP benefits, it's not only red states, it's also some blue states as well. So New Mexico is considered blue, and that actually has some of the biggest participants that partake in this program of SNAP, which is the Supplement for Nutrition program, basically. And then you've got red states like Utah, which has some of the lowest participation in the program. So when I was doing my research for this, it wasn't always universally true that it was just the red states that needed it. There's quite a lot of blue states that needed it. But the reason why this is important is because of where Jupiter is. Yeah, of where Jupiter is, and why this is important. Wherever Jupiter is in the chart, there is that potential for enlightenment, shall we say, or opportunity. This is the thing that Jupiter is most known for: the economy, opportunities, wealth, abundance. He is known as an abundant planet. Let me just put the camera a bit more in the middle. He is known as an abundant planet. However, I think this is quite tricky. Because very often enlightenment, as we know it, tends to come after we've had a bit of a ropey time. Yeah. When you think of it in terms of your life, in terms of when you've had great insight or great spiritual growth, or you've reached some great revelation, very rarely, I would say, I think it's fair to say, does things like that happen when we're sipping margaritas on the beach with our friends, yeah, and everything is hunky-dory. Most enlightenment usually comes with struggle, or after struggle, or during struggle, yeah, and I think it's fair to say that is just part of the human condition. I'm sure all of you will agree. And one of the things that, of course, that we have seen, especially over the last few months, in fact, in light of the election, let's just put it that way. Yeah, let's just put it that way. We know that there is a huge MAGA base. Why should we say huge? Well, no, actually, it's still pretty big. if you actually look at the statistics, so we know that Trump's approval rating is at record lows. Apparently, he has about 37% approval rating, which is really low. I think it's even lower than it was in his first term. However, many of you who will also watch, of course, independent media like mine, and obviously the other readers, astrologers, but also other independent podcasters as well. And many of you will be familiar with I've Had It podcast, that firebrand of those two ladies from Oklahoma who just tear the you know what out of the Republicans and the Dems as well when there's fair criticism to be leveled in their direction. And they reckon that, in terms of like the cult, in terms of like the hardcore of the hardcore, when it comes to those that support Trump, is, they reckon around about 30%. And I would put it at around about that 35, 36, 37%. Because of course, anyone who is still supporting Trump now, you really, really are effectively in a cult. However, I suspect after the 1st of November, that percentage will probably drop significantly more. Why? Because many of you will know the SNAP program is being stopped, or essentially it's not going to be paid out. It's not going to be paid out. The argument being used, of course, is the government shutdown. And if the government doesn't reopen by 1st of November, and look, I'm just gonna put it out there, guys. What incentive does Trump have to reopen the government? The second the government is reopened, what's going to happen? Yeah, there's going to be the release of the Epstein files. Yeah, the Epstein files will be released because, of course, they still need to swear in that senator. Was she from Arizona? But anyway, forgive me if I've got the state wrong. But we all know there is that Democratic to be sworn in senator, and once her vote is cast, then of course that is going to go. That means that the Epstein files will have to be released, which of course Duck Larange and his powerful friends does not want to happen. Yeah, they don't want that to happen. So there is no interest in them reopening the government. I would go as far as to say this regime is so crazy, they may try to never reopen the government. And I know that might sound a bit scary to people, but we need to acknowledge what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people that are very, very sick in the head, sick emotionally and spiritually as well. Because, of course, once look all of the ructions and, of course, everything that is still happening, of course, with Prince Andrew, yeah, he still will be referred to as a prince, but he is no longer the Duke of York, and he's had to give up all of his royal titles. And one of the main reasons for that is because Giuffre's book, sadly, she took her own life. I forget her first name, but we know Giuffre, who was, of course, sexually exploited by, by Andrew and Epstein and others. And she, of course, has a book that has come out posthumously. And they were talking to her youngest brother. And they also had on his wife, who had been Giuffre's stepsister. And what I found very disturbing, although I'm not entirely shocked, is that the revelations came out that the father sexploited his own daughter. And then the kids have found out subsequently. And the father was paid off. The father was paid off and he accepted bribes to keep Sturm. So what does that tell us? What this tells us? This tells us a lot of things. First of all, it goes back to like what I was talking about with Trump's chart. Do you remember I said he's got Saturn going through the eighth house? The eighth house is the house of what? Sex, death, and rock and roll. It also deals with espionage. It also deals with scandals. It can also deal with health issues as well. It is also the house of the ologies. So, you know, graphology, psychology, astrology, all the ologies are there as well. So look, the eighth house isn't all bad, but it depends on the transit that you're having. Yeah. And because Trump is a Leo ascendant, he has got Saturn, the planet of accountability, going through his eighth house. This is why none of this is going away. Now, he knows he's in trouble on this, which is why there is, of course, what? No incentive to open the government. The eighth house is also other people's money. And we see what has been happening already and what Trump and the regime is doing with other people's money. Because you remember I was talking about this Jupiter is becoming exalted in Trump's 12th house. I don't want to repeat myself too much because obviously I just did a video on it very recently on my Friday Fry up just gone. But the 12th house also deals with expenses. It deals with losses. It deals with hospitals. It deals with prisons. It deals with exile. It is the land of far, far away. It deals with foreign places. It deals with islands. It deals with coastlines. And this is why I said, like, once things really, really start to kick off for Trump, I think part of his insurance policy is to maybe escape to somewhere like Israel or something like that. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all. And I think I pulled cards on it. Anyway, I don't want to keep repeating myself. But the point is that the chart of the president will affect the chart of the nation. So of course, what is going on if it it not only means like we've known like basically in Trump's 12th house, which deals with hidden enemies, yeah, foreign lands, like I said, he's got Saturn there, which is governments, Venus, which is women, Pluto, which can deal with the underbelly, yeah, the dark side or the corruption. 12th house is also imports and exports, international trade. So we know, for example, of course, that Trump was doing what? An international trade in what? Young women and girls. Yeah, that's it's literally the trafficking. But it's also what? Foreign lands. We see he's doing what? Giving what 40 billion away now to Argentina. They've got 20 billion already. They're going to get another 20 billion contingent on whether or not Argentina vote in Malay, which of course is coercion and bribery. But the important thing to understand as well is this 12th house is associated with losses. So it can also mean because Trump is having this transit to this 12th house, it can also mean the nation could experience a tremendous amount of losses. And what is Jupiter, even though he's known as a great benefic, yeah, which means he's kind of sweet in nature. Jupiter it does deal with extremes, yeah? Things with Jupiter can become very extreme, very overblown. So a person can become extremely generous or profligate, yeah? Or even wasteful, yeah? When Jupiter goes through the 12th house. You know, you've got to be very careful with Jupiter in the 12th house. Very often one's expenses will increase dramatically. However, if you're doing good karmas and performing good work, then those expenses or you'll be compensated in some way when Jupiter moves into your first house. Yeah. Because it, you know, if we imagine the circle, it goes, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then it goes back to number 1 again. So you can see that Trump is being what? Extremely generous with his handouts to foreign countries, but not for the domestic population. For the Americans, and particularly those that voted for Duck Larange, they are experiencing what? The losses. Yeah, the losses. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let me just first of all let me just get let me do share screen and make sure I do it right this time. Entire screen, do that, share, perfect, and then we'll get this chart up here. Make sure we can see everything. There we are. So there's the chart. Very good. So that's up and running. Here, look, how convenient. I've left it open. We've got Donald Trump's chart. Yeah, Donald Trump's chart. Here he is. Repeat after me. Leo rising 6 degrees, 51 minutes of sidereal Leo. Very closely conjunct his Mars at 6 degrees, 40 minutes. Basically, Trump's ascendant is the best part of 7 degrees. Just as a reminder, you will know from my membership videos that Stephen Miller has his sun at 7 degrees of sidereal Leo. Yeah, slap bang on Trump's ascendant. Caroline Levitt has her sun at 7 degrees of sidereal Leo. Even though she and Stephen Miller are born years apart, they've got the sun in the same place. They're only 1 day apart in terms of their birth date. 7 degrees of sidereal Leo conjunct Trump's ascendant. Candace Owens has got her K2 at about 8 degrees of sidereal Leo, slap bang on Trump's ascendant. So I need to explore it further. And I think in subsequent videos, as I've been focusing particularly on membership for a lot of these kind of Republican sort of ne'er-do-wells, to see, these planetary configurations that they have with Trump, and it's so far it's proving very consistent. However, the spookiest one, of course, is Stephen Miller with Joseph Goebbels. Yeah, oh my God, the similarities there and the overlappings are just ridiculous. He may well be in reincarnation. Anyway, the point is that you can see here. Here is Pluto, Venus, and Saturn in Trump's chart. Here, where it says TR, that means transits. This is where the planets are right now. In fact, that needs updating. Let's do now, because Jupiter, here we are, we can see is now at, it's still less than 1 degree, but it is now officially in sidereal Cancer. Yeah. Which of course it means it's over here, and it's now, this Jupiter is now basically right on top of Trump's Saturn. The reason why this is significant is because the leader of the nation, now we know he scammed it and what have you, but officially Trump is the president of the United States, which means his chart directly impacts the citizens of America, which means with Jupiter being there, exalted, extremely powerful, but in the 12th house, it could mean literally gargantuan losses for certain demographics. Yeah. I mean, huge. Jupiter is a massive planet. And this is where, for me, this is where this enlightenment is coming in. Yeah. Because even though there are quite a lot of people that use Snap in the United States, I mean, in blue states, disproportionately, I mean, apart from places like Utah and stuff like that, but in the southern red states in particular, they are going to be disproportionately affected by those SNAP benefits being cut. So these are already people that are essentially either don't have enough earnings or don't have enough earnings at all to be able to afford food. Now, why is it going to be manifesting in this way? Because Jupiter, of course, is in sidereal Cancer. What does the sign of Cancer deal with? Yeah, here I've just listed off some bits and bobs. So I put here, Jupiter becoming exalted in the sign of Cancer means enlightenment is coming around Cancerian themes of family, Children. Jupiter is the planet of children. Real estate. Yeah. And it also talks about land. Yeah. Homeland. Real estate obviously includes renting as well. It deals with care of all kinds, support of all kinds, i.e., people's benefits. Yeah, Cancer is known as the mothering sign. It's in Vedic astrology. It's known as mother's milk. Yeah, it is actually can be a very generous portion of sky. Particularly the middle part of Cancer, which is in the nakshatra Pushya, which means the auspicious one, but it's also known as mother's milk, or it's represented by the cow's udder. Yeah. And obviously, as well, it deals with food. Yeah, because Moon, along with Jupiter, which has just come to me, Moon, Jupiter, and Venus are all planets of food. Whenever I'm talking to my clients, I really do describe them as the foodie planets. So if we see here, Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, is now in Cancer, the sign of food. So of course, in family, where he becomes exalted, but it's also very, very close to Trump's Venus, which is also a planet of food. But this is all happening what? In the 12th house, which can mean what? Endings, expenses, or waste. No food for people on Snap. Wow. Do you see how these things are manifesting? Look, this is also as well. What is it? The farmers. Cancer is a sign as well of the land, yeah, the homeland. And you guys will remember when I did my let me just do the stop share there. You'll remember when I did my predictions for the inauguration. I think it was on Hogarth's Financial Astrology. I can't remember which, but I did the predictions. I said, unfortunately, Trump is going to induce a lot of losses in the United States. Now, it could be that because it's also foreign lands as well, and exile and stuff like that. We'll have to see, but do you remember I've been saying for years, I've always seen Trump at some point fleeing the country. Do you remember that? Now, of course, I made these statements years ago and I've been consistent with them. Those of you who've been with me for a long time will know this. But think about it. What happens in a nation when there's not enough food? Do you think people put up with that for long? What it normally leads to is revolution. And when I was looking for the French Revolution, the configuration is very similar to now. And then I saw that the main thing was that Jupiter was exalted in the sign of Cancer. And you would think, the logic would say, well, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, that must mean an abundance of food. However, it's enlightenment, like people getting enlightenment around food, family, rent, all forms of security. Cancer is the sign of security. It's the natural fourth house. It's the roof over your head. It is the food in your belly. It is your sense of self. This is why the sign of Cancer is often known, or the fourth house, the natural fourth house, which is Cancer, is known as the seat of power. And it's always exactly opposite the 10th house, yeah, which is to do with the career, our name and fame, going out there, highest dharma. So, and they're opposite each other, which talks about the relationship that they have, because we all need a home. Without a home, you can't have any power. Think about it. Because the first house is the body, fourth house is real estate, the roof over your head. Seventh house is your partnerships and relationships and business. 10th house is your highest career and all of those things. So without a roof over your head, all you have is your first house, which is you, your body. Speak to anyone that is unfortunately homeless. That is all they have. Maybe a cardboard box, but they only have their body. In order to have any power, you need to have a home. You need a roof over your head where you're not exposed to the elements. Otherwise, you're just in what? You're just in survival. And you can see the logic of this, why the fourth house or Cancer is also known as the seat of power. Remember too, the crab carries what? Its home wherever it goes. So Jupiter being exalted here can mean people have enlightenment about all of those things. But enlightenment often comes from suffering. And when you think about it, my goodness, wow. In the French, let me see if I can find the French Revolution chart for you. Let's do here. Let's do file, open, and let's do country. Let's see if I can find France birth chart. Here we are. French Revolution. Oh, wow. Look at this. All right. So the important thing to understand is, right. Okay. I remember it slightly differently. So what's the key here? What's the key takeaways? Yeah. So in the French Revolution, 14th of June, 1789, I've put here midday in Paris. Yeah. Why is this important? The reason why it's important is because you will notice in this chart, Saturn is at 2 degrees and 15 minutes retrograde. Oh my God, this is so spooky. I've just noticed something. TR is where the planets are today. Yeah, transit. Look, Saturn is at 2 degrees 10 minutes retrograde. It's basically in exactly the same place as the French Revolution. The moon would have moved out quickly, but because the moon only spends a couple of days, a couple of days in each sign. Yeah, 2.5 days in the sign. And here it was already at 20 degrees. But the main thing is that Saturn was in Pisces. Now, remember, what is Saturn? Saturn is the government. Yeah, Saturn is the government, rules, regulations. But Pisces is co-ruled not only by Jupiter, but also Neptune, which is known as the Great Dissolver. This is why when Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, we can see a breakdown of the normal order. In the French Revolution, you can see here, Neptune was in Virgo opposite. But this time, all these hundreds of years later, of course, Neptune is now with Saturn, but running at very similar degrees. Here you will see, because of course the chart, America's chart was 1776, this is 1789. So of course Pluto has had more time to move, but it's still in the same sign of Capricorn. Do you see here? This is where Capricorn is right now. And that energy began, Pluto moved into sidereal Capricorn on the 1st of January 2001. What happened 5 days later? We had the insurrection. America's not been the same since. This is also what a Pluto return. But then if we go here, look at all of these planets that were in sidereal Cancer. Yeah. Now here you can see Jupiter is at 15 degrees 43 minutes in this one. At the moment, Jupiter has only just gone in. Yeah. So what is he's now in sidereal Cancer, and he's going to stand there for a while on Trump Saturn. Then he will retrograde back into sidereal Gemini. Pardon me, I think around December. Yeah. So he's gonna be in sidereal Cancer for about 7 weeks. Retrograde back out, and then we'll come back into sidereal Cancer on the 1st of June. Yeah, and then stay there pretty much until November before he then moves out into Leo. So there is lots of energy that can pile up. Now, Uranus will not be here, yeah, because Uranus is currently in sidereal Taurus. So we don't have to worry about that bit. But you can see here how dynamic and radical that would have been. Uranus is the planet of revolution. However, you see here, Uranus is in sidereal Taurus, which also, if you remember from my videos, Taurus also deals with food, nutrition, money, yeah, asset classes of all kinds. And as you know, as I correctly predicted, I said when Uranus goes into sidereal Taurus, we're going to be hearing a lot more about cryptocurrencies and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it moved into sidereal Taurus on the 1st of June, 2024. Yeah. And then it dipped in, hokey cokied. It's going back to, of course, Algol, the star Algol, which sits at 1 degree of sidereal Taurus. But think of all the upheavals that we're also seeing in finance. This Uranus also deals with new technologies, cutting edge, visions of the future. Uranus is also AI. At the moment, it's the they call them the Great Seven or the Magnificent Seven. There are seven tech companies that are currently holding up the US stock market. Yeah. And they say that that's going to pop soon. I mean, I don't want to give people too much doom and gloom or whatever, but my job is to interpret the true positions of the stars to give you guys an inkling of what's going on. Yeah, so we can see those things there. Let me share my screen again to share, and then let's look into. So again, this theme here. So I looked this up, USA facts, and I also looked up USDA and stuff like that. But I found this was very useful. I did in more kind of concise language. Anyway, how many people receive SNAP benefits in the US every month? So look at this. About 41.7 million people during the fiscal year of 2024 received some form of SNAP benefits. That is 12.3% of the entire US population. It's probably even more in 2025, but as we know, Duck Larange is not keeping stats anymore on certain things. Participation in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, there we are, SNAP, is determined based on household income levels. SNAP, once known as the Food Stamp Program, is administered by the Department of Agriculture, providing food assistance to low-income individuals. Now, remember as well, Donald Trump cut millions of tons to that food program as well. Average number of monthly SNAP participants, you can see here, is 41.7 million, 12.3%. The source, Food and Nutrition Service. Yeah, so this is, legit. Participation in the federal assistance program peaked in financial year 2013 when an average of 47.6 million people received the benefits every month. That was very much in the fallout as well of the economic recession of 2009. Yeah, 2008, 2009, 2010. Yeah, because it has a lag. Yeah. So if we look here, financial year on average, 41.7 million people receive SNAP benefits every month. Look at this. You can see here, look, 1970 is far less, and then going up and up and up and up and up. The 12.3% of the population receiving SNAP benefits in financial year 2023 is more than double the share in financial year 2000, when only 6.1% of people were recipients. Since the year 2000, in financial year 2013, 15% of the US population received SNAP benefits, the highest share of any year during the program's history. I can't quite remember what was going on in 2013. But here you are. On average, there we are. SNP benefits you can see here. The graphs. While SNAP is a federally funded program by the Department of Agriculture, it is administered primarily by state governments. Participation differs across states, reflecting both economic situations and local program policy. In financial year 2024, state-level participation rates ranged from a low of 4.8% in Utah, a red state, to a high of 21.2% in New Mexico. So that is a tremendous amount. And then for financial year 2024, New Mexico had the highest rate share of its population receiving SNAP benefits. You can see here percentage of the population receiving monthly SNAP payments. So you can see the darker the color. If you look here, okay, so DC, what do they mean by that? State is that? Is that Puerto Rico? But is that Puerto Rico? It says DC, because look, it's looking like it's off the coast. Can't be Washington, D.C. I doubt if it's that much. Anyways, sorry, forgive me my confusion there. Anyways, so look at this. So in 2023, households with children received more SNAP benefits than those without children. So remember, Jupiter is what? Children. He does symbolize that families, children. But when he's in the sign of Cancer, it's mothers in particular, because Cancer is what? The mothering sign. So with children, without children in blue. So all household types you can see here, that was about 20%. Married couple family, just over 10%. Male householder, no spouse present. So you see the men here are quite high. What's this giving here? 22.8%. And then if we look here though, female households, no spouse present with children, just over 40% of all SNAP benefits go to single mothers. So do you see how this lines up so strongly with the astrology? Cancer is the mothering sign. It's literally mother's milk. Wow. And then non-family households with children says 24.8%. So that must be like a foster care and maybe something like that, I would imagine. Qualifying for SNAP benefits is based on how close households' income level is to the national poverty line. If expenses aren't considered, i.e. gross monthly income, households must make less than 30% above the federal poverty level. If expenses are considered, households must make less than the federal poverty level. Alaska and Hawaii have higher income cutoffs due to higher cost of living in those states. So if we look here, so for one individual per household, the poverty level is $1,255. For two people, it is $1,700, just over. Three, you can see here, 2,150. Four, 2,600. Five, 3,049. Six, oh my God, seven. I mean, oh God, is there even? Actually, there is a woman that was talking about her SNAP benefits being cut, and she's got 6 children. Yeah, red state. You can figure that one out. Yep. And then 3,497, 3,945, and then 8, 4,394. Yeah, I think so that gives you that overview. Let me do the stop share and go back. So you can see why I'm laboring this point. This is, I think I'm good. I don't want to just talk about hyperbole, but this could have a potentially devastating effect. Yeah, because of course 41.7 million people use SNAP. That means, assuming the government stays closed, which of course Duck L'Orange has no interest in doing, that means 41.7 million Americans could have nothing to eat. Do you see why I said this could be gargantuan? There's around about 340 million US citizens there or thereabouts, loose change. You can call it 350, but I think, in fact, let me just actually double check that. Let me just double check that. Let me just see here. Let's just see here. And let me just say population of the USA. Let me just do this. Let's get this population in the US. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Just so you can see for yourself. Let's go back. Just so you can see for yourself. There. So the population of the United States is 340 million and a little tick there, according to official statistics. But we know that 41 million, 41.7, so almost 42 million people in America use Snap. So if you think about it, I mean, that is that is a lot of people. That is a lot. That is a big part of the population. And I think they said it was 12.3% or whatever. That was the that they put it out as, but that is a lot. And then they said that's 1 in 8. So you can see here what is going to happen. Now, of course, we know that what has Trump done? Trump has, let's do the, where is it? Trump and this regime is cutting all of that. I mean, just think of the, like, when you just think of, like, oh my God, the effect that is going to have. And this is what I've been talking about in terms of, like, this rude awakening. Yeah. And I'm not saying single mums with kids need rude awakenings, because I'm really worried about the kids at the end of the day. But there were, I mean, I've been seeing on YouTube, there have been a lot of Trump voters out there who are on Snap, and they've got 3, 4, 5, 6 kids, sometimes more. Oh, yeah. A lot of them have had their benefits cut already, but this is the official thing. Some people are saying it might actually be revenge for the No Kings marches, which of course was over 7 million people apparently that have joined that. So that's good. That's really good. I think it sent a strong message to the regime. You know, Duck Larange is going to pretend that he doesn't notice these things, but he does. He's all about the popularity, isn't he? For him, it's all about the popularity. He pays attention to these numbers, and we know how petty it can be. When he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, yeah, what did he do? Announce those tariffs on China, tanked all of crypto, yeah. And you know, a few days before no Kings, I think it was a couple of days before, this was announced. Yeah, once they knew how big the numbers were. I mean, we can speculate on whether or not that is the case or not, but it wouldn't surprise me, because what is these people, this regime, they take pleasure in inflicting pain. Obviously, they delight most in trying to inflict pain on blue states, but they happily do it for the red states as well. And in fact, overall, the red states are going to suffer the most. Most of those farms are in red states. Most of the farmers that are going to lose their businesses are going to be in red states. Those subsidies that Trump is saying that he's going to pay out, which I think is what, 10 billion or and loose change or whatever in 2026. The vast majority of those recipients of those payouts, from the research that I've been doing, are going to be major agribusiness. They say those subsidies only go to 4% of farmers. Independent farmers? How many independent farmers do you think are going to be left by the end of this? So we are in extraordinary times. A lot more people are really going to start waking up to this Trumpocalypse. Yeah. Remember that word, a phrase I coined years ago, but this is up there, Trumpocalypse. Those people that are on Snap are devastating. And if you're on Snap and sadly, you voted for voted for Trump, then oh dear, this is it. Oh dear, yeah. The adults should know better, but what about the kids? The kids are going to be suffering, and they're innocent. They can't vote. They can't vote. It's up to their parents to have their best interest in mind, and many didn't. But of course, there's people in blue states that didn't vote for Trump as well that will also be affected. What about if you're a pensioner and you have a need to supplement your income because you have a fixed income? Maybe you didn't hit the main thresholds, and now you're looking at the potential of the SNAP benefits going. I hope something changes. A lot can change in politics. Yeah. But that is about today's the 20th. So 1st of November, what is that? That's another, call it like 11, 12 days and loose change. Call it 12 days. Yeah. 11, 12 days from now, because today is the 20th of October and it's 9:17 p.m. UK. So what else did I want to share? It's what have I put here? All the red states. Oh yeah, and also as well, like all of the red states handed over their citizens information, which was like in terms of they were gathering information on who was receiving or not SNAP benefits. And apparently, I can't remember the podcast that I was watching, but they said the red states handed over the information. Apparently, the blue states didn't. So they said this could also be a factor of punishment as well, because obviously they want to feed it all into Peter Thiel's Palantir and all of that kind of stuff. And Snap has been cut by 187 billion in general, which is effectively 20%. And of course, many of those stores, because I've been watching quite a few of the independent channels, and they said most people get their Snap at the first of the month. Not all, but most do. And what this guy was saying, and that he says that's why around first month everything is looking so fresh and plump and juicy, because they know that food is going to go quickly. Yeah, because people will come and it's the whole USAID that supplemented SNAP as well. A lot when they cut those international programs, they also cut the domestic programs as well. And there is again, I was watching another independent YouTuber that keeps abreast of all of these things, and they said they're not turning anyone away from the food pantries, but they're giving them less. So they said the average person used to get about 20 pounds of food. They said now it's going to be reduced down to 12, and they are the meat and dairy and pork and stuff is being severely cut because the funding was cut. So I think there might be a new slogan which might go around. Which might be "Make America Thin Again." I know it's a bit sinister, isn't it? But this is also an opportunity for those that have been asleep to wake up and join in solidarity with others that have been talking about this stuff for years. All of these programs, because the majority of Trump voters, a lot of them are on these programs like Snap. So they voted against their own interest. Obviously, not all. You can see the stats for yourself, but a lot. So imagine the kind of wake up call that they're having, huh? When November 1st comes around. And even if the government were to open tomorrow, it might be very delayed. They're saying some states are going to take the opportunity just to cut SNAP altogether because it's been something they've been wanting to get rid of. So this is very, very much a rude awakening for those that supported Duck L'Orange. And of course, it also extends, like, it's just the family in general. Think of all of the families that being affected. Some of my clients are telling me that they're having family members are moving back home because the cost of living is so high. Look, rent is sky high. Yeah, absolutely sky high. Food inflation, and also as well, Jupiter unfortunately is quite an inflationary planet. He makes things bigger. So if he's blessing you, he can give you huge blessings. But if it's connected with losses, oof, those expenses can be massive. So for you can see here, it's gonna be a very mixed blessing. However, Jupiter will be blessing a lot of people as well, but particularly people that that are more spiritual in nature, more ascended in nature, more generous of spirit and broad-minded, more Jupiterian in that sense. Yeah, in that sense. So it's not all bad, but for some people it's just got a lot tougher. Hopefully, maybe something will happen and that can be avoided, but there is nothing that I've seen in the regime that has even a shred of sympathy for these people. And opening the government, reopening the government, means to open the files, the Epstein files. It's basically that simple. So think about Duck L'Orange, think about all of his friends. Do they really want that to happen? I think they're going to try and keep this going as long as they can, and they'll probably even try and go for martial law and stuff like that. Let's say we're doing on time. Okay, so I think I've spoken enough. Let's just pull some cards. Pull some cards for the people that are on Snap. Oh, I've been having an allergic reaction to things recently. Fingers are really stiff. I went to the chemist because I've got a bit of a rash on my elbows and my arms. She said, you need antihistamine. But I think I've been extremely busy. I've been extremely busy working very, very. It's been wonderful though, being with clients and stuff. But thankfully from this week I can start getting a bit more rest. See what is going on. Just want to read in general. Oh God, it's even hard to shuffle the cards. I think Jupiter in my first house could be giving me a little bit of affliction for now. Hopefully the energy will settle down. People on Snap. What does this mean for them? People on Snap. What does it mean for them? America in general. People on Snap. Ah, look at this. So if we see here, 5 of Wands, yeah? 5 of Wands, make sure that I'm speaking here. Which talks about what? Conflict, yeah? Conflict, chaos, not being able to agree. So, of course, what this is going to do is the cut and snap benefits is just going to cause chaos for people. People are going to be scrabbling around, fighting with each other, trying to make ends meet. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Remember as well, they also think about it. Everyone's been deported from the fields, yeah? Homeland, yeah? Homeland. Jupiter is also food in the sign of Cancer, which is food. Venus is food and wealth and stuff like that as well. Moon also deals with food. But think about it. Everyone's been deported, so they need people to work the land. What do you think they're gonna suggest that people on SNAP benefits do? They're gonna be like, well, if you want to eat, well, there's some blueberries that need picking over there. I don't know if you guys saw, but nurses in New Jersey, there was a poster up. I don't think it was everywhere. But there was a hospital in New Jersey that put up a poster asking nurses to volunteer in their spare time to pick blueberries. These are nurses, highly qualified people. Obviously, it didn't go down well, went down like a cold cup of sick, as it should. But imagine if you're on Snap and you've got no other means of income for food, you're going to get desperate pretty quick, aren't you? Yeah. So this is where I see the logic. It's all about putting the power into the hands of billionaires. Put the farmers out of business. Yeah, get them to vote against their own interests. Yeah, Trump. Oh, you know, they're stealing our jobs. Okay, so you get ICE out there that intimidates all of the farm workers. They leave. Those farms go out of business. You then pick up, use Trader Acres, which belongs to your good friend JD Vance. He just so happens to be the vice president. They can then buy up all those farms on dimes on the dollar. The help, as it were, has been deported or self-deported. But then you're going to have what, 40.7 million people who are on Snap, who no longer have ready access to food. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of desperate people. They're going to be like, well, maybe you need to work for them. Maybe you need to work for your stamps. Wow. If we look what's showing up in the obstacles position for people, yeah, on Snap. Hierophant, which is what? It is the card of government, but also authority. Yeah, the shadow of this card can be what? Authoritarianism. Yeah, you see here it's the pontiff preaching to the two priests. This for me as well is like the Opus Dei. It is for me, this is Project 2025. Here it is, Project 2025. Look, 9 of Wands, going to be difficult. Yeah, a lot of hardship for people, but they're going to be resilient. They're going to try and come through. Yeah, but this is the card of having to think on your feet. Yeah, this is the card of fighting. Yeah, feeling beaten up in battle, but still trying to find the courage from somewhere. Just in case we weren't sure. Look, 4 of Pentacles, holding on, trying to hold on to as much money as they possibly can, or whatever food is in the pantry. Yeah, lack of resources. And then look, outcome, High Priestess, which this is my card from Netanyahu, and also as well by extension, the country in the Middle East, the one with nukes and free healthcare. They got another payout. I think they get another 5 billion or something like that. They've been promised money, so there's money for Argentina, there's money for Netanyahu. But when it comes to the American people, like, no money. You can just fight with each other. Yeah. Hold on as best you can. Yeah. Or this is holding on. Yeah. Because we have our own agenda. Yeah. This really here, particularly here. Yeah. Because the Hierophant is the male counterpart to the High Priestess. The High Priestess is the female counterpart to the Hierophant. Government, yeah, doing their decrees and their doctrine, but it's there's also clandestine motives there as well in the High Priestess, and it's Project 2025. That's basically what it is, and so many of these people, unfortunately, vote for it. As much as they protest that they didn't, many did, because we all knew what Trump was beforehand, and obviously they didn't vote to directly have their SNAP benefits cut. But, it's too late now. Too late. So let's see what happens. I think I'll just leave it there. But this is, giving you this update here. And I just felt like I had to speak today. Please be, of course, be sure to like and subscribe and share. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll leave it there. All right. Bye-bye for now.